Remind me again, which football team you're rooting for on Sunday?
I plead the fifth.
So does that mean you don't have it? I'm actually asking. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I'm really just curious. I don't recall.
I'm a Cowboys fan, unfortunately.
So you're tormented.
Daily, yeah.
Oh, quit your crying. I'm a Browns fan.
Oh, that's worse.
That is worse.
Way worse.
Not unless you're a Dolphin fan.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how far
I'm
we
starting
can
to
take
feel better. I'm starting to feel better.
That's funny. Good morning, everybody. If you're just joining us, we're having very shallow conversations about bad football teams. I live in a town that's had a perennially bad football team until the past couple of years here in Detroit. So I will plead the fifth. We've been tormented for years. But in the chat, as you're joining, in the chat, why don't you answer this question for me? What do you call the people you serve? What do you call the people who buy from you? This came up in our leadership meeting a couple weeks ago. Actually, yeah, it was almost a couple weeks ago. It was last Monday. I believe Carl brought it up. He said, I've heard the term customers. Scott's all antsy about calling them partners. We call them clients. What should they be called? And I don't know if there's a right answer, but I am curious to hear what everybody calls them. So just drop your answer in the chat. If you want, you can also drop your favorite professional football team in the chat. If you believe that you're either interested in being tormented or above the torment, I'll take either of those. Oh, we got a lot of customers here. That's interesting. Yeah, Brett is bound. Well, we got customers, we've got Go Lions. All right, we've got clients. Come off mute if you're interested in sharing why you call them what you call them. What's your logic? What's your rationale? Change my view here. Let's go gallery.
I'm trying to get my camera to work, but it's not working. I'm not sure what's going on.
Andrew, weren't we having this issue 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Was the last time I used the camera. I'll figure it out this week, I promise.
And you put use in quotes while I have you. What's
slide your thing?
Slide your little camera to the left.
Camera thing. The camera protector, so they don't.
Oh, there it is.
God, you're so old.
I had no idea that button was even there.
You did.
We told you last time.
That's what happens with it when you're a Dolphin fan.
Senile.
That's why we're here for you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy.
So Andrew, why customers, why partners, why clients? What I'm looking for your answer here, and I'm not seeing it. It'll be here soon. Clients, why clients? Why do you call them client?
I just think it's more respectful. Customers are, kind of a non-relationship based word in my opinion. But my clients are people that I know and, operations that I know. And I think just a customer is the guy that walks by the Winn-Dixie checkout. That's a customer to me. But a client is somebody that I understand their needs and wants.
That's a really thorough definition. Thank you for that. I will tell you, businesses need customers. Businesses need people to give them money. Those transactions are important. Everybody knows that. But I do believe there is a slight mental shift when you start referring to them as partners or as clients. And I was told that the difference between a customer and a client, because I didn't understand. I was just like, what? Is it like the flavor of the day? I used to go back and forth between, those terms. And what I was told was, what I was told, it sounds like someone's trying to contribute. Go ahead if you got something to say. Or was someone just not on mute when they thought they were? What I was told was that this was a difference between someone who just transacts with you and buys a product from you Whereas a client, or in this case, a partner, is someone that comes to you for your expertise. So people in knowledge businesses like my own, I don't have a physical product to sell, aside from a couple of little books that, if you ask me nicely, I'll probably send you for free. People come to me for expertise. People come to me for training. People come to me for my thoughts, my processes, my experience. People come to you for that same experience too. And what we've talked about, as I transition this into how we got here to begin with, the biggest difference between your best customers and the customers that are not, what you would consider your best, are the ones that appreciate the expertise, are the ones that appreciate everything that comes along with that transaction. So why have we spent so much time thinking about what we bring to the table, thinking about what we've earned over our careers, thinking about what we can provide that nobody else can? Why have we spent so much time investigating and really thoroughly, almost ad nauseum, talking about describing our best customers? How do we feel when we work with them? Not only the little descriptors about, well, they call me instead of having me call them, or, the things like that. I've got all these notes, and you can go back and look at the other recordings again to go back and beat that drum again. But we need to identify what makes us our best. We also need to identify what makes our best clients, because what I've learned over the last 10 years of doing this is in a consulting role is that most companies don't know what they do really well. And if you don't know what you do well, how do we know what to do more of? If we don't know what good looks like here from a customer standpoint, from a client standpoint, from a partner standpoint, how do we go find more like them? And so what we've tried to do over the last 3 sessions up until now is distill what good looks like here. In most teams that I train, out of those teams, some of the people on those teams, they like training, they like getting better, they like expanding their horizons, they like investing in themselves, they like training. Oh yeah, this guy could probably teach me a thing or two, and if I get maybe 3 things out of this 6-month process, then I'll be happy with it. A lot of reps are defensive. Wait a second, you're going to pull me into a meeting on a Friday. I could be on a golf course, on a boat somewhere, with a customer somewhere. Man, I don't know if I need this. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this at a high level for a long time. Well, what makes that a high level? Is it just the W-2? Is it just the results? Is it just the quota attainment? Okay, how did you get there? And if you put someone brand new in front of you, could you teach them to do it in a way that would make them succeed? Or would you just tell stories about the good old days when corporations didn't pay attention to the corporate credit card balances and used to have a great time high on the hog on someone else's dime, and those experiences turned into relationships? People don't buy that way anymore. So what I want to do is help you distill what good looks like here. Because a generic training program can tell you what good looks like out there, but it doesn't relate, it doesn't resonate, and it's not going to make you it's not going to increase your performance as effectively as really distilling what good looks like here first. And this is a concept I've been thinking about more and more over the last couple of weeks, which is why I'm airing it out a little bit here. But what we're going to do today in this session is take what we've learned already in the first 3 sessions and start to look forward at planning our territories and also having those conversations that I asked you all to have with your best customers. Now, I'm going to show of engagement here in the chat. At the end of the last session, I challenged each of you to do one of 2 things. If you're a field rep that manages accounts, whether from the inside or in the outside, if you're someone who manages regular accounts, I asked you to ask your customers why they buy from you. If you are a showroom seller and people are all coming in, or maybe you're an inside seller and you're just working the phones, or it's an internet sales process, you're just working the phones. When people called you and people called you back, I challenged you to ask them, what made you think of us today? What made you come back to us today? Something along those lines. So just by show in the chat, drop a number 1 in the chat if you did that, if you accepted that challenge. What was probably, I think 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago? Drop a 2 if you didn't. Cool. We got actually pretty well split here. We got a couple of 1s, couple of 2s. I'm proud of the people who put in 2 because they're basically admitting to not doing their homework assignment. Now I'm curious of the 2s, either Ariel or Steve. And Steve, I got your camera. Oh, here's a one. My last reminder of the day. I'm only gonna do this once, but I am gonna do it every week. We have a very small amount of cameras on right now, and I'm gonna tell you right now, if Andrew can figure it out, I know you guys can figure it out.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I'm gonna ask you to put your cameras on here. We're all friends, and let's try to treat this like we're as face to face as possible here. Steve, I'm going to ask you.
Hey, Jeff, Ken
Yeah.
Yeager.
Hey, Ken.
Two, and I'm driving this morning. So
Keep your camera off then. While I have you, why didn't you do it? Did you just forget to do it, or did you think it was stupid?
Oh, not stupid. I just forgot to do it.
Okay. I'm trying to give you an out there. Steve Grand, what about
I'm
you?
stupid.
Oh, Ken, you're not stupid. Steve, what about you?
Well, to be honest, I don't really feel I have strong enough relationships with customers yet to ask that question.
Awesome.
A little bit new
Thanks
to
for
the
that.
field, don't really have, been helping out a lot in the office and things like that. But yeah, just kind of an odd question for me to ask at the moment, to be honest with
Awesome.
you. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I'm gonna help you today. This is why I'm going here. Let's see. Tucker, if you're able to pop on camera here, you put 1. How'd it go? All right. Maybe Tucker's not in a place to be able to speak. How about Stephanie Knight? Oh, Stephanie said her camera isn't working. Computer said try another device. I can hear you though.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I actually talked to 2 different customers. One has worked with our company for many years and fortunately had a great experience before with our bosses. And so when I took that account over, and plus I live a mile away. So he's like, you're local. I trust you. You're honest with me. And then I had talked to another customer and he said, I appreciate the fact that you're honest. And if you can't help me, if you don't have what I need, you're not afraid to say, but here's some other options, or I can reach out to this person and make other contacts. So I think that level of trust has been established with him and he appreciated that.
What did it teach you?
That I needed try to go the extra mile for people and just try to continue to build those relationships. And it's okay to be honest if I don't know the answer, or if we can't help them with what we do, that it's all right to send them somewhere that can.
What did it teach you about the value of the things you're already doing?
That extra mile that I try to go is paying off, I think. Yeah.
The first thing that pops into my head when someone answers this question for me, and it seems simple, something that I just ordinarily do, that I take for granted, quite frankly, is I didn't realize that was special. So Stephanie, in this case, if we're role playing this, and we don't really need to role play, I'm just going to use this as the example of my customer to say, wow, Stephanie, thank you for sharing that. I kind of take that stuff for granted. Are you telling me that people don't do that for you? This question gives them the permission to turn right around and rave about all the things that they don't get when they go elsewhere. And that kind of competitive intelligence is golden. My encouragement to you and everybody else is when people answer questions like this, there's going to be something that pops into your head, and there's going to be this little voice that says, I wish I knew this. That little voice in that context has never led me wrong. And I assume, actually, I'm willing to bet that it'll never lead you wrong either. As long as it's not a malicious question, as long as it's not going to offend anybody, but you've got someone right here who is open and in front of you and willing to discuss. And if you give them a little bit of permission to go a little further, they often will, particularly if you've already screened them as someone worth having this conversation with.
Mm-hmm.
And I fought that little voice for the first few years of my sales career. And then one day I just got gutsy enough to do it. And then I asked the question that I thought was like, oh, did I just cross the line? And I got one of the most thoughtful responses from a hard-nosed customer of mine that I ever thought. And then I did it again with another customer. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And I have now learned that it's not worth suppressing that question. A good question with a good purpose for asking. Genuine curiosity, not trying to manipulate somebody, but really, I'm trying to learn more. You can always fall back on the intent. And if you feel like you crossed the line, you can always walk that back. Or if you get that facial response, you're like, wait, you know what? Sorry, I'm really just trying to learn more. I apologize if I've crossed the line. Don't answer that. I retract it. You can always walk that back if your intentions are good. So don't be afraid to ask that question. And Stephanie, thanks for sharing. I want to walk us through a framework that I have. I'm going to share my screen again. This is a framework that I think, look, some people forgot to ask those questions. Steve, you said you didn't feel like you had earned the right to ask that question. A lot of people
I don't know
feel
about
this way.
quite that to that extent, but
well, I mean, you said you
just
didn't.
not really.
You said that you didn't have a good enough relationship with the customer to ask that.
Yes.
That's
yes. Or at least it's strong enough, or long, maybe tenure, stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah. So potato. I would call that as, I didn't earn the relationship, hadn't earned the right in the relationship to ask that question. Do you still disagree? I don't want to. I want to make sure we're clear.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So this is a framework I have. I call it 5 questions for killer customer conversations, because these conversations are brilliant. They're the lifeblood of growing your business as quickly and easily as possible, and with the best kinds of customers. So here is the filter at the front. You ask who you believe to be your best customers these questions. Okay, you're not going to ask this of a stranger off the street. You're not going to ask this of someone who bought just for the very first time, although you might ask the first question. But the people that you feel you do enough business with, that you're thinking of as partners and clients, or just great customers, as a lot of you don't refer to their customers as clients or partners. We're looking at someone who you believe is actually got a good enough relationship with you that they can answer these questions. So, question 1, why did you choose to do business with us? Very simple. Why did you choose to do business with us? What made you choose us today? This is a simple, straightforward question that, quite frankly, is going to get you a simple, straightforward answer. The thing I want to remind you of is that 80% of salespeople will not, actually 95% of salespeople will not ask this question because they're not brave enough to. This requires you laying it out there a little bit, leaving yourself a little bit vulnerable, but not so vulnerable because it's an easy question to answer. That's actually the problem with it, because you won't get a very good answer. You ask a simple question, you'll get a simple answer, and it'll start the conversation, but it won't get you as far as you really need it to. So your next question on the heels of that answer is, can you please be more specific? And then you have to tell them why. So Steve, I'll say to you, hey, Steve, thanks for that answer. I feel like it kind of got the ball rolling here with this discussion. And, a lot of people, when I ask them, they give that answer. But I'm asking you specifically because I really value our relationship. I feel like there are times when you have called me when you could have called somebody else, and there's a reason for that. And it's probably not the thing you mentioned earlier, because yeah, we give great service, but a lot of other people tell me that a lot of other companies are going to give you great service. And let me just tell you, the reason I'm asking you to be more specific about that is because I value our partnership, and I am really looking to grow with other people I can have that partnership with. So if you tell me what is really important to you about our relationship, I can hopefully help someone else in a way that is as meaningful to them as it is to you. Now, don't think just about the words that I just used, because quite frankly, in my practice, they change every time I say this. But the intent behind those words is where I'm coming from. So what are your words that match that intent? Right? What we're trying to do here is let our guard down so that your customer can let their guard down. And you want to provide a very safe environment, a very good reason for them to be willing to let their guard down. You're asking for help. You're also asking for help being reminded. You're asking for help and to be reminded of how you can continue serving them the way they need it, right? Is everybody following where I'm coming here? Because look,
Yes.
you need to get a really good answer out of this, a really specific answer. You're not going to get it unless you give them permission to do it, and that means that you have to get vulnerable yourself. When you let your guard down yourself, it gives them permission to let their guard down. So can you please be more specific? This is what I'm asking for, and this is why. I'm asking for your specific reasons because I value our relationship, and I'm working very hard to serve people that I can hopefully have similar relationships like yours. This works. Are you brave enough to ask it? It's a little cringy at first. Question 3. Why do you continue doing business with us? So, why did you think of us the first time? How do we win your business the first time? What was so significant about what we did that earned your business the first time? How did we stand out? Now, why do you keep coming back? You got to be careful here to pay attention to what you hear and what you don't hear. One, the reasons they keep buying from you are different from the reasons they bought from you the first time. So we want to pay attention here to the things that you need to do to continue to serve them and earn their loyalty. What you also need to pay attention to is what you don't hear. Most of you on this call manage accounts. Most of you on this call are very proactive about putting yourself in front of your customers. What I will also tell you is that most sales reps in the field over-index on the amount of time they spend with their current customers, and it prevents them from finding new customers. My contention, and we'll get into this a little bit here later in this session, is that you can spend half the time you do with your current customers and keep all the revenue. So what we need to pay attention to when we ask this question are the things that we hear, because we need to keep doing more of those. We need to keep doing those, maybe even more of them. And we also need to pay attention to what we don't hear, because we might think that donuts every other Friday keeps the business. If they don't mention donuts when you do this, you are spending time and money that you don't need to spend. Not saying you can't do it, but when we look at how we spend our time every day, every week, every month, it's important to know what's moving the needle and what isn't. So let's stop here for a second before we go into questions 4 and 5. What have we done? There are a couple real wins that happen when you're willing to just ask these first 3 questions. We're going to learn something. We're going to learn about our marketing because we're going to learn about what converted them the first time. We're going to get vulnerable with them, which is going to allow them to get vulnerable with us. And a relationship only gets stronger when you have good conversations like that. Think about your friends. Think about your spouse, your partner. Think about your roommates. Think about your colleagues at work. Think about your friends, outside of work, outside of your family. Your relationships get stronger when you're willing to be real. And then the third thing you're going to learn is they just gave you the playbook for how to keep their business, maybe even how to grow their business. And they also gave you the playbook and the messaging for what to talk about when trying to find more customers like them. Because everybody needs to grow. And I don't know a sales rep who's like, oh yeah, it's all just white space out there. I'm just going to go grow. Most of you have responsibilities. Most of you have current customers you have to take care of. You have all this stuff that eats up time on that calendar. And you start thinking, how do I go and grab new customers? Well, here's the playbook. Let's not make it any more difficult than it is. As a matter of fact, why don't we make it as easy as it can possibly be? Question 4, do you know anybody who would appreciate the same kind of value? Yes, we're asking for a referral. I read a stat a couple years ago as I was getting ready to do a kind of a sales kickoff, a huge international meeting. This was summer 2023, and I looked up some stats. It was something like it was 89 or 90% of customers polled would provide a referral if asked for one. And the corresponding stat was like 11% of sales reps are willing to ask. It's like, wow, that means that there's 89% of salespeople are interested in making this game harder than it already is. You have good customers, but you don't get what you don't ask for. So if you're just willing to ask, you'll get it. Well, why don't most salespeople ask for more referrals? Because it feels like they're taking something. I don't know. I feel like we've got a pretty equivalent relationship right now. It's, I hope they don't come back and ask me for a discount because of this. Think about your best customers. Your best customers want to see you grow. They want to see you thrive. That's what makes them your best customers. They're willing to provide this stuff if you're willing to ask for it. Don't just stop there. If they're willing to give you a name, are they willing to meet you and that other person for lunch? This is worth the price of 2 turkey sandwiches. Let me tell you that. So drop a 1 in the chat if this whole 5-question series makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Drop a 2 in the chat if you're ready to do this today. Or Monday. Steve's ready to do it now. Steve, I knew I was going to help you today. Dig it. Jim Wright is uncomfortable. Jim, are you willing to chat about why you might still be uncomfortable?
Yeah, okay.
Why don't you feel like you can do this? What's
well,
stopping?
I'm shy.
Okay.
And then 2, I feel like I put down on that first question, I call people customers.
Okay.
And when they hire me, when they have me doing jobs and build a place for them and do drawings and stuff like that, I think of myself as their employee. I just go and, I'm an employee. They hired me. Now I have a job. And then asking all these questions you're putting up, that sounds like something you ask a date if you got a wedding ring in your pocket or something. I mean, why? That seems like out of bounds and a waste of the guy's. Maybe if the guy, when I'm in his office, had his feet up on his desk and nothing to do, I might start that kind of help me build my business thing. But I don't feel that because and it's like if I came into this company and met somebody and say, why did you hire me? I mean, what the heck, and start going on that. And they go, well, maybe I should think about this. They go look at my records and don't be looking at my records and things. So that's what I get out of it.
Okay. I could argue with you, Jim, but I've never won an argument. You win an argument, you lose a customer. It's no one ever wins an argument. I go back to that. I might just suggest this, and you can do with this what you want to do with it. And I like the idea that you think of yourself as an employee when the customer hires you for something. That's good. Let me remind you that if they needed an employee, they'd have chosen anybody, but they chose you for a reason. And that reason they chose you over and above all the other features and benefits means you provide value to them that nobody else can. That value gives you leverage. So you mean more to them than just a line item employee would. But you might be surprised. And I will tell you that not every customer is worth having this discussion with. You can't just roll this out. You got to pick the ones that have hired you a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times. They're the ones who really appreciate you. And what I've noticed is that when you speak about what you bring to the table, it's different than when your customers speak about what you bring to the table. And that customer's language is more valuable than your own. So the more often we can speak customer, the better. So again, I'm not going to twist your arm behind your back and tell you got to go do this. My only goal here is to make you think. Maybe you have a little more leverage and a little more footing in that relationship than the typical employee-employer, and it might be worth something to you to help you get the next job a little more easily. And if you care to discuss this or chat about this or whatever, we got limited time here today, but I'm happy to discuss this with you. And again, not here to change your mind, but if you're thinking or intrigued or whatever, drop me a line. Let's hop on the call. I'll make that offer to you or anybody else.
Good. I just wanted to participate a little bit, so thank you. No, I'm all good with that.
I greatly appreciate that, Jim. Thank you. Sheila says that she's a 1. Sheila, are you willing to chat?
Sure.
Sheila's
I would
always
be willing
chat.
to talk to most of my customers and ask those questions, but I think people hear what you're saying about the 5 questions. My point is they don't all have to be asked at the same time. This is, to me, a way to step through a conversation and a relationship. And I may have already asked customers versions of 1, 2, and 3, and just need to start in on, question number 4, about asking them, do you have other people that you might think of that I could call or call on? So I don't think it's a fact of having to sit and ask these 5 questions in a row. I think you have to get to a relationship to where you can start asking the questions and then step through to where you're developing that relationship to where they are either giving you referrals without you even asking, because I get a lot of people calling saying, so-and-so told me to call you, that you were the person that could help me. So I think it's more of a point of massaging those relationships to where we can get this information from people. And I did ask a few people why they, chose to purchase from us. I wasn't as much surprised over the answers as I was that they were actually willing to give me reasonable answers. I kind of thought by asking that people would just sort of brush through, but several of them were pretty honest about their answers and pretty forthright.
It's pretty, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I mean, it tells you a lot about their relationship when they're willing to go deep with you. That's how you know you have somebody.
Well, and I made the comment that my best customers end up being friends as well as clients or partners.
Yes.
There is actually an emotional bond or an attachment that gets formed after you help someone so frequently. And to me, that's one of the things that I was told is we buy from you because you help us. And one lady even said, you don't sell to me, you help me. And so I think after you form that relationship where you truly want to help people, then you have a friend. You've moved into a friend zone.
Thank you. No disagreements. No disagreements. What I want to do is show you how you can leverage this conversation. And not just by learning, not just by asking for referrals, but I've put together a little framework here that I think some of you are going to recognize. I hope some of you are going to recognize it. And I think a lot of my clients actually think about customer growth in two different ways. They think about new versus old. They think about hunting versus farming, right? And I don't think that's necessarily the right way to do it. I mean, it's a right way to do it, but I think we leave money on the table that way. And so instead of breaking customers down in terms of new versus old, hunting and farming, I do it a little bit differently. And when I use a point of reference of what I first saw in Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Has anybody ever read this book? It's classic. It's sold a couple of million copies by now. It is, it's one of the best self-improvement books ever written. Drop a 1 if you've read it before or at least heard of it. I don't need to go in the weeds about whether or not, I could teach out of this book for hours. I don't have a license to do that, so I don't, but I refer to it often because it's just a really impactful work. Good, getting a couple ones here. Well, what Covey talked about in habit 3, actually, which is put first things first. He says, you got to think about what's urgent and what's important. And the things that are urgent and important, that was quadrant 1. Covey called that the quadrant of necessity. We have to do these things. It has to be done, and it has to be done right now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is your top priority, and the numbers in these quadrants equate to the priority with which you should do them. In quadrant 2, we have what is important but not urgent. This is the most important group of activities that we can do for long-term growth and success, effectiveness, which is what Covey called that. But this stuff gets put off. I know I should take care of my body better. I should move more. I should eat less. I should get more sleep. But hey, I'm 25 years old. I'm never going to die. So why do I need to pay attention to that stuff right now? Said me at 25. Now me at 46 is feeling a little bit different, right? But these are the things, this is what Covey called the quadrant of personal leadership. These are the things we know we have to do, but there's no real deadline or no imminent deadline. So they tend to get pushed off because there's a bunch of stuff in our lives that is very urgent, but not very important. Covey called this the quadrant of deception because urgency disguises itself as important. Most of the little red circles and notifications on your phone don't need to be attended to right now, but they're little, they're red, and they're prevalent all the time. Some of them even buzz or bing in your pocket when they come up because pay attention to me right now. Makes you feel like you got to get rid of them just so that you don't have something on your plate later. But the thing is, most of these things aren't that important. And what ends up happening is you spend time, energy, effort, resources tending to things that aren't important just because they're urgent. And what does that do? It takes time away from the stuff that is important. Then you look at quadrant 4, Covey called this the quadrant of waste. It's not urgent and it's not important. Not only do we not need to do it at all, we certainly don't need to do it now. How much of this creeps into your life? The lesson here, and this is what's going to translate forward, because you're going to see an analogy here. We need to spend less time in quadrants 3 and 4 in order to spend more time in quadrants 1 and 2. It's the only way. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. Some people get more done than others. It's not that they get more done, they get more impactful things done. So what does this mean for territory management? Well, let's not think in terms of new or old, hunting and farming in terms of our customer base. Let's think about those customers that are both growable and accessible. Customers that are growable and accessible. What do I mean by growable? They have money to spend, and they're spending it somewhere, but they're not spending it with us. Okay? Maybe they're a current customer, maybe they're a brand new customer, but if they can spend significantly more money with us, and I'll let you define what significant is, they are growable. How do we define accessible? Will they take our call? Or have they never heard of us and don't respond to us when we ask? Right? On this continuum here, you know people that you get a handshake, maybe a hug when you stop by the restaurant. They take your call every time, or when they can't, they apologize and say, I'm sorry, I couldn't take your call. Can't wait to hear from you. When can we connect? Those are highly accessible people. Again, those who don't call you back because they don't know you from anybody else, they're less accessible, okay? So quadrant 1, they're growable and accessible. This is where we need to spend our time. This is where our growth is coming from. But we also know that we need to grow with people who we aren't doing any business with right now. That's quadrant 2. This looks like our prospects. This looks like that work that we don't like to do because I don't know a salesperson who really enjoys prospecting. Sometimes I do, most times I don't. For something I really enjoy doing, once I get up and going, I really need to get started more often. Anybody else feel that way? But here's where to grow. These are accessible, but not that growable. Here's the thing. This is our quadrant of deception. This is where we need to proceed with caution. That's why this 3 is in yellow. These are often our very best customers. Wait, I have to spend time with them. They're worth 1/3 of my book of business. Okay, ask yourself the hard question. Can you grow them, or do you just need to maintain them? I don't know a salesperson who doesn't like to spend time with these customers. As a matter of fact, anytime your manager comes into town and rides along with you, this is where you go. You want to show that person that you're liked, that you're respected. You're not going to take them along with you to get your teeth kicked in making new calls. Maybe you will. The best ones do, as a matter of fact. But earlier I said, you can often spend half the time with your best customers and keep 100% of the business. How do I know when I can do that? Well, you go through that questioning process that I mentioned earlier. You listen to what you need to keep doing. You listen for what you don't hear, which is stuff you can stop doing. Maybe it means that maybe it means you don't need to stop by every week. Maybe it means you don't need to call on them every week. If they don't say that they love that you call on them every week, maybe you can switch that up. Maybe you can switch that to an email. Maybe you can switch that to a text. And you go in person every other week. Maybe you ask them, what's your preferred method for me to stay in touch with you? Is it beneficial that I show up in person every week, or do you prefer another method? We're going to get into some of this stuff later. But I want you to think here, because if you are going to grow, you can't spend most of your time below this line where growability is. Quadrant 4, just for rounding it out, these customers are not accessible. They're not growable. You're going to take what they give you. They're going to order every once in a while. They're not going to pay attention to you. Do not waste your time here. You are going to decide what these customers are, or who these customers are, rather. How are we going to do that? Well, what I want you to do is I asked you all to pull out a pen and a piece of paper, or bring with you a pen and a piece of paper. Ken, don't do this while you're driving. I want you to write down a list, and I'm going to give you time to do this. I'm going to give you about 8 minutes here to do this. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this. You're going to write down 3 columns on a piece of paper. On the far left column, it's going to be your list of your top 10, maybe 15 customers. Column 2 is how growable are they from 0 to 10. If they're growable, if they're not growable at all, you're getting every dollar that they can possibly spend with you, they are a 0. If they can perhaps double or more the amount of money they spend with you this year, they are a 10. Everything else is kind of in between, right? And I'll let you rank that on a sliding scale. The third column, you're going to rank your customers on a scale of 0 to 10 for how accessible they are. 0 meaning I've never gotten any call back from them or any kind of response. 10 being I can walk in the door, maybe you have the security code to the back door. Based on those rankings, you've got a set of coordinates. So for your top 10 or 15 customers, go through fairly quickly, assign them rankings, and then what I want you to do is, draw a little plot here, little matrix here, and plot them on the chart. I think a few of you, probably a lot of you, are going to be surprised at where your best customers actually lie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this. Well, let me ask you this as I stop sharing here. Okay, can you hear me now? Cool. Yeah, my Teams app crashed, so that was fun. Okay, so where did you lose me?
Last thing you said was going to give us 10 minutes and forget what you were going to say something, but
Cool.
Yeah, he said,
I'm
I'm
glad
gonna
we
stop
got.
sharing. And that's,
Yep.
yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah, well, and then
There you
then
go.
the whole thing crashed. Okay, cool. So, drop a 1 in the chat if you know where I'm going with this. Drop a 2 in the chat if you don't, and drop a 3 if you stop paying attention to me and you've already worked on it. Cool. I've got a 1 and a 3 so far, and another 1. All right, good. I am going to let you work quietly here, and I'm going to see. Last time this didn't work, but we're going to try it again. I'll just play a little background music for you, and then we'll get together in about 7 minutes and discuss a little bit. Let's come back here. All right, I stopped sharing, and this time everybody didn't freeze. Okay, Gracie, I'm going to ask you because you started before everybody else. What'd you learn?
What did I learn from the column one that you just told us to do, right? That's what I started.
What did you learn from? So what did you learn when you laid out these people and you graphed them or plotted them on the coordinates there? Did you learn anything? Were you surprised
Yes.
by anything?
I would say I learned that I can, like, I don't want to say get more out of my clients, customers, but like I can push myself to drive deeper into what they need, or, you know, try different alleyways of what they, can adventure into, not just sticking to a closed-minded, okay, the sale's done, what does my other customer need? Or what does my other account need? Kind of just venture and dig deeper into the accounts that I already have established.
Awesome. Awesome. You've heard me say this before. I'll continue to say it. Don't make this any harder than it needs to be. If there's room for you to grow, if there's room for you to hit your number, if there's room for you to make more money, if there is room for you to help those people more than you already are, do it. If you're down there in quadrant 3, and then let me ask you this, is there anybody in the yellow 3 zone that maybe you were surprised where you're like, oh God, I'll bet they're actually 3s?
Got some 3s, but they're not surprising.
Okay. When you look at how you're currently allocating your time, do your rankings or your plotting, does that indicate where you spend most of your time? It's a reflection of where you should be spending your time, but is it a reflection of where you actually spend your time now? Because that is the gap that we want to pay attention to. And I've never taught this without at least 1 or 2 people in the room saying, oh, that's who I should be spending time with. And Gracie, you mentioned it. There's more room here with these clients. And I like how you said, I don't want to get more out of them, but I could partner with them a little bit better. There's more room for, there's more fruit in that relationship. And look, the tenet that we all sign up for is that if there's fruit in it for you, it's because there's fruit in it for them too. I want to be very clear. We're not here to take advantage of anybody. Stephanie, you've got your hand raised. I've got time for your question, then we got to wrap up.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I noticed was I do a lot of the inside sales and I'm in the showroom, but I see the general managers and the owners of the restaurants a lot, and they focus more on like the glassware, the dishes, but it's their managers who are ordering their smallwares, and it's usually online. So I feel like if I spent more time kind of digging in that way, that there's some potential there.
Love that. That's a win. That's a win. You just identify that there's money being spent. It could be being spent with you. It's not, because you're not calling on the right people. I love that, Stephanie. Thank you. Now my challenge to you is, who are you going to call on Monday?
Hey, Jeff, I'll give you a win on this, that this showed me I'm not calling on people I should be calling on.
Love it. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for sharing that.
Yep, got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How do we train the squeaky wheel? You know, the customer that's always the one that's really a 3, but he likes to think he's a 1. I guess that's another class.
It is another section. I'm actually going to write that down, because we've got a little bit of flex time later in the program here, because we knew stuff like this was going to come up. So that could be a special section. That could be an interview that you and I just do, like a pseudo podcast, and we could record that for training purposes later. I'm going to investigate that. I know exactly what you mean. I will say this, Ken, you've never had a better day in sales than when you fired your worst customer. But just because you're a squeaky wheel doesn't mean you're a bad customer, though. So there's a lot to dig in there, but I like that question. We just don't have time right now. I want to thank everybody for participation today and the engagement. I think I love this group, and I feel like we're gaining more momentum as we go through this program here. We're right at the top of the hour, so I want to share 2 things with you very quickly. Next session, we are going to talk about the sales process, or the selling process itself, and the 4 things you need to do to move a sale forward. We're also going to learn about a way to score those things, so you know that you are doing enough of the right things during any given week. So that's my preview for our next session. Super helpful for me, and it was a system I devised early in my career that fundamentally changed my success, and I'm happy to share it with you. The last thing I want to mention really quickly, you pay attention on Tuesday. The next newsletter will have a link in it to a quiz. Yes, there's a quiz, because at the end of this program, you get a certificate. I can't just hand out a certificate without knowing that you learned something. So it's going to be a very brief, very straightforward, very multiple choice quiz that you are optionally, but strongly encouraged to participate in. Shouldn't take you longer than 5 minutes, but it is also open book, open note, open community. So just keep an eye on that out. Keep an eye out for that. It's coming next Tuesday. Beyond that, I've kept you a minute longer than I promised. I will see you in a couple weeks. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a great day. Go sell something, and have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.